Good morning, everyone. My name is Keith Bryant, and I am the president of the San Diego Association of Black Journalists, or known as SDABJ. And welcome to Pro for a Day. We've been doing this event for about 18 years now. I think the first one was in 2003, I believe. And so we've been doing this to really help our local college and high school students. It's usually at Southwestern College, but due to pandemic, it has been virtual these last 2 years. So again, thank you so much. And we're happy to have you here because these are tips and tricks that you won't learn in the classroom. So we're gonna get started with our first panel, our San Diego Media Power Media Brokers panel. So we're gonna start with Jerry, and Jerry, take it away.
Thank you, Keith. Hello, everyone. My name is Jerry McCormick. I'm the founding president of SDABJ. I'm also an adjunct professor at San Diego State University, where I teach broadcast, and also at Southwestern College, where I teach print. So thank you all for being here this morning. We have a wonderful panel of speakers. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves really quickly in about a minute. So Mr. Light, we're going to start with you.
Okay, thanks for having me here, everybody. Thanks, Jerry. I'm Jeff Light. I'm the editor and publisher of the San Diego Union Tribune. And right now in my car in the parking lot of the Otay Lakes Recreation Center.
All right, Andrea, we'll go to you next.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us. And you guys are so good at just juggling something that's unpredictable with technology. So my applause to you guys. My name is Andrea Lopez Villafana, and I'm the managing editor of Daily News at Voice of San Diego.
All right, Dana, we'll go with you next.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dana McDaniel. I'm the director of content for CBS 8 and the CW San Diego.
All right, Mr. Goldner, we'll go with you.
I am the news director, good morning, everybody, of Fox 5 in San Diego.
All right, and Mark, I know you're just signing on, but we're introducing ourselves. So if we can just introduce yourself in a minute, that would be awesome. You're on mute, Mark. There we go. Mark?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you, yes.
Sorry about that.
So can you introduce yourself?
I'm Mark Rochester. I'm the managing editor at iNewsSource. We're an investigative newsroom in San Diego.
All right, thank you, Mark. So for our panelists, this program is for high school and college students. And so what I'd like to know is, how did you very quickly get into the business and where you are today? And Dana, we'll start with you.
I think I knew pretty early on what I wanted to do in high school. I was part of the newspaper and the yearbook team. And we had a radio station at my high school. So that was kind of my beginning. From there, I went to a trade school that taught basically how to do radio. After that, I went to college, got a 4-year degree in communications, and then just started really kind of, chipping away, getting a foot in the door in television news production. So I started in Chicago at a startup called CLTV. It was owned by the Tribune. And it was a 24-hour news channel that they were launching in Chicago. And if you can ever get your foot in the door at a startup operation, it is a wonderful experience because you learn from the ground floor pretty much every position that there is in a newsroom. So I was very fortunate to have that first position with the Tribune, and then just really kind of bounced around. I've worked in many markets. Detroit's my hometown. I worked my way up and became the news director in Detroit, then in Washington, DC, San Francisco, Kansas City, and now beautiful San Diego. So it's a long journey if you get into this business, and sometimes you have to be willing to move.
All right, Mr. Goldner, what about you?
When I came out of the womb, I started broadcasting. No, it's not true. So I grew up in Queens. I had a police scanner when I was younger, and I sort of wanted to know a little bit about everything. And I think that that's sort of the curiosity was part of my sort of journalism career. Internship while I was in school at Syracuse, which is really important. It also helps you determine whether or not you want to be in this business. I think internships are really good for any field that you're going to be in. And then I turned the internship into a 2-day-a-week job, because in this business, sometimes it's hard to get full-time. So just know that. And then be able to work, midnight to 8 in the morning, and somebody relieved me at 8 in the morning and said, there's a full-time job at CBS. And so then I got a job at CBS full-time, and then spent time in New York for 3.5 years, then moved to Los Angeles, worked at KTLA for 17 years in all different positions, and then came to San Diego in 2008, and we started Fox 5. So just sort of stayed in the same field. I know a lot of people chase money. You hear a lot of people who talk about this field and say, I dabbled in real estate for a little bit, and I try to do this and that. But I think if you stay in the same field and you're passionate about it, you will make money down the road. But that's sort of how I got into it. That's, you find a lot of people in the newsroom who this is what they want to do instead of just making a living. So.
All right. Jeff, what about you?
Yeah, I guess maybe my story is a little different. I sort of drifted into it. Like as a young person, I wasn't super focused or driven. I was, I was good at going to school, which I did. I went to college. I was good at that. I wasn't very career focused. And truthfully, like I remember the day I had a bunch of law school applications stacked up in my apartment. And I was like, I think I'm tired of this school thing. So I was a writer, and I thought, well, maybe I could get a job at a newspaper. And I just drove along through New England and upstate New York, stopping at all these towns until I found somebody who gave me an internship, and sort of figured it out from there. The things that others are saying, like being super focused and getting internships and being passionate, those really are the keys. And I guess just to fast forward, along the way in my career, I became well credentialed in a bunch of different dimensions that that enabled me to go forward in my career. We could talk about that idea of being credentialed a little bit later, but that's sort of my story.
All right. Andrea, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess ever since I was little, I've always been a chismosa. I love to be in people's business and find out what they were doing. And now I do that professionally. So I started out in my high school paper as well. And I went to San Diego State University, joined the student paper, and I really learned so much there. Really focused on, building a network and building connections with professionals. And it was actually through an event for a professional journalism society that I met my first employer, and that's how I got my first job. I just met him, and I wouldn't stop emailing him until he gave me my first job. So I think that for me, getting into this business, it was really important to network, and it's helped me, get to where I am today.
Actually, that was going to be one of the questions I'll ask. So we're going to circle back to networking in a second. Mark, how did you get into the business?
Story to the other panelists. I worked at my high school newspaper, worked at my college newspaper, had several internships during college, bounced around in different markets as a young reporter. I had never, in terms of how I got to where I am now, I had never really had any aspirations other than being a really great, newspaper reporter. That's all I ever really wanted to do. And I got into investigative reporting and overseeing investigative teams on a dare. I was in a newsroom where they had attempted several investigations that flopped miserably. And one day, one of the editors just approached me and said, "Mark, you know, you really have an eye for this sort of thing. Would you take on our investigative? Would you rebuild our investigative operation? You know, we really need help and somebody from here and turn the ship." We were being threatened with a lawsuit, and that was kind of the last straw, where they were either going to disband the investigative operation altogether or find someone who could save it. And that's how I got into investigative editing, kind of on a dare.
Okay. Before we go any further, I'd like to let the participants know that, you know, we are free to answer your questions. So if you would like to put a question in the chat, that would be awesome. And I'll call on you and then we'll answer it the best of our ability. So Andrea, you had talked about networking just a second ago. So I wanted to know from all of the panelists, how important is that for people to get internships and jobs? And so Andrea, we'll start with you, and then whoever wants to answer can jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I can't emphasize how important it is, and I know it's really, really scary. I think for me, that little window into learning how to network, and you know, and I'm talking about networking, not just your own peers, because you really want to make sure that you develop professional relationships with the students that you go to school with, especially like at your college newspaper, because you know they may end up getting jobs at publications or TV stations that you might want to work at, so you want to have those really good relationships even just with your peers. But networking in terms of, you know, maybe building relationships with older professionals or, you know, editors, that can be a little intimidating. So I think for me, I got involved in NHJ, the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, the student chapter. I helped found it, and that was kind of a window to help us, you know, and invite professional journalists and not make it as intimidating. And it was actually at a mixer or an event of NHJ, but the professional chapter. That's where I met the editor of the first paper I worked for. And I think that every step throughout my career, you know, I started at La Prensa San Diego. It's a small community paper. From there, I went to City Beat, and I actually got that job because I had built a really good relationship with one of my friends from college who, you know, was offered that job but didn't take it, and he suggested that they should talk to me. So then I got the job, and then from there, you know, I went to work for the Union Tribune, and that's because somebody knew me and they recommended me, and you know, then it was moved up again, and then now I'm at Voice of San Diego because I had good connections with the editor there, and you know, he thought that I would be a good fit for this role. So it just networking has really shaped my career. So I really, really encourage you guys to build those really strong relationships with your peers, but also don't be intimidated and reach out to those editors or those journalists that you really admire and that, you know, you want to message them and ask them to meet you for coffee or to chat on the phone and pick their brain. They're happy to help.
All right. Who's next?
I could do it.
All right.
I think, you know, what Andrea's touching on is making sure that, you know, a lot of times you have a craft that you're good at, almost like a vocation, you know, you study and you learn to do it. And then some of the things that we're not taught would be things like social, you know, getting to know people and working with others. And I think that is super important. A lot of times when we hire people, first and foremost, we want to know if they're a good person. You know, especially in the day that we live in now, with so much social media, and making sure that, you know, what you post could be a problem for you, and trying to unwind that could be a problem. So you could be really good at your craft, but not a good person. And those days of you getting into an organization and not being somebody who wants to be a part of something, you know, there's a million sports analogies, but somebody who's really good at sports on a team is going to take the team down if they just want the ball all the time. And so I think being a person who's passionate, being somebody who could grow and is a good listener, has helped me. I think it's really important for you to raise your hand. Sort of extra credit helps you, where if it's a Sunday and there's an earthquake and you turn your phone off and hope nobody calls, There's probably a few times in your life when you can actually take a turn, and you can probably, all of us can say, hey, I remember that moment that I got noticed. And it usually comes in the tone of you stepping up, not just you being good at your job. And then somebody gets to know you. And so last thing I'll say is people bring in people that they know and trust rather than people who are super smart. And you can always grow in your craft, but being a good person and somebody who's willing to learn and help others, I think is super important. So that's helped me a little bit.
So the pandemic has pretty much affected all of us in some shape, form, or fashion. And I know a lot of companies are doing remote internships and jobs. So how does one, and I know you guys are getting like tons of applications every single day, how does one stand out or get noticed by you? Dana, I'll start with you.
We're actually doing a paid summer internship in person. So if anybody's interested, hit me up. But it was tough, Jerry, for the past 18 months, not to be able to connect with the next generation. And so it was hard for us. We like to mentor, we want to grow people, and not being able to connect with, the college age students who are, our future. Was difficult. So I think it's important that no matter what, you do try to reach out, ask for somebody to critique your work. We have students reach out, and when they're starting to build a reel, they'll ask for feedback. If I don't have time to do it, I like doing it, so I will take the time, and I'm always looking for that next future superstar that's out there. But I can pass it on to one of my managers to take a look and give that kind of feedback. Not only do you need us, we need you. So Jerry, the great resignation is actually real in our business too. People are leaving and taking other jobs elsewhere, or are deciding they want to do something different. It's not as easy to fill these jobs as it once was. This is a destination market, but it's also expensive to live here. So it's been harder and harder to recruit for some of these open positions that we have. So don't give up. If you just send in your resume and you apply online, there's a lot of people that are applying for that same job. So you've got to take that extra step, connect, find somebody see if you know anybody on LinkedIn who knows anybody who knows anybody, see if they can get your resume in front of the hiring person. I have people try to connect with me all the time on LinkedIn, and I might not have a job right now, but 8 months from now I might, right? So you just have to keep trying to make those connections. Super important.
All right, Jeff, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think a couple of things, and we offer paid internships both for college and high school students. So I'll get that information back to you, Jerry, and you can get it out to everyone. I think when you're looking from the hiring end, first of all, there are hundreds and hundreds of applicants for every job. So these internships, and I think Jerry, you've helped, and I think Donna has as well, us sort through sometimes. It's a big job because there's tons of people. And the things that make you stand out are the thing Andrea was talking about. Networking is super, super important. And sort of generally in the whole world, that's how the world works, by relationships. And to me, that's the value of a journalist, is their sources. That when you really boil it down, that is what a journalist does, is be able to connect to tons of people. So that's a basic skill that will both help you get jobs and help you succeed in your work. And the other one is, you want to be competent. You want to have work that really stands out. I would say you want work that's a little different than everybody else. You go through the piles of clips, and there's lots of competent workmen like stories about events, what I saw and what I heard. But the remarkable stuff is original creative work from people who really got something to say or something that's really different. So look for those opportunities. And then finally, I'd say, being credentialed, you don't want to just say, hey, I'm a good student journalist. You want to be able to say, I started the Spanish language edition, or I took a leadership role, or I won these prizes, right? Things that really set you apart. So being purposeful about that stuff, I think, is really helpful in your career.
All right, Mark, can you chime in?
Yeah, I think bridging the last two questions, it's critically important that, when you're networking, that you don't just concentrate on networking with hiring managers. That's obviously very important, but you want to make sure that you are networking broadly. Thinking back over my career, this is my 12th newsroom. I've crisscrossed the country during my career. I've worked in Detroit, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Denver, all kinds of places. And I've always made sure that I've maintained, connections that I've made over the years. When I think of the sort of life-altering jobs that I've had, jobs that were just a great combination of fantastic professional experience, but also a great lifestyle. I got those jobs because of personal connections. Companies were reaching out, they were looking for certain skill sets, they were looking for experienced people, and my name would come up in those conversations. And they weren't reaching out necessarily to other hiring managers, they were reaching to people they knew, people they trusted. And so having that recommendation from a trusted source was very important in a lot of the best jobs that I've ever had. In terms of what makes you stand out, more than anything else, having a professional looking and well-crafted, assembled portfolio, whether you're in broadcast or print, having a portfolio that is professional looking and well done and really emphasizes your career highlights is the most important thing you can do as an aspiring journalist. I've been a hiring manager for 25 years. I've never once asked someone for their college transcript, which is not to say that education isn't important, but I've never asked someone for their grades. I've asked them for their portfolio. What have you done to prepare yourself for this career? What professional quality work have you done to prepare yourself for working in this career or working in my newsroom? That's what I want to see more than anything else. So if you have to put your energy in one place in particular, that's where I put my energy. It's making sure my portfolio is top notch.
All right, Rich.
In terms of
What can one do to make themselves stand out?
I think being present. So when I interview people, one of the things I look for are your lights on. Are you aware of what I'm saying? Is it going in? And some of the most basic, simple things I can tell probably after interviewing many people over my lifetime in about a minute, whether or not they're there. And I think in our business, you talked about, Jeff talked about, like, if you are a curious person, your job is to figure things out and be social so you can actually interview people or go and get stories. And so if somebody's sitting across from me and it doesn't have that quality, but this goes again for all businesses, we can talk about anything here when journalism, any job that you're trying to do. Some of the simple and basic things that we run into as hiring managers are you on time? Are you making yourself available as your career, as you grow? I look for people who raise their hand, not just to stay in their lane. I think a lot of people stay in their lane. If you want to go from A to B, sometimes you have to go A to C, which is very important. So you have to be able to know that you may do something that you don't like or may not be in your brain and where you're going to be headed. And so make sure that you're available and you're present and you're willing to do anything. It used to be back in the day, I was really good at, Xeroxing and collating. Those are copy machines for those of you that don't know. We don't use paper anymore, hopefully, but I had a master's degree in Xeroxing and I was really good at it. And if you're really good at that, someone may say, well, maybe this person can write. Maybe this person can do a live shot, or this person can do this, or send this person out. So the other thing is you're always representing. So make sure, again, whatever organization that you're in, that you are aware that you're representing. So you can't shut this job off. And imagine going to a party, and nothing against State Farm, but if someone says, where do you work? And someone says State Farm, the person kind of moves on. If you tell them you work at the UT or you work in a media organization, they are curious to know how you do it. They want to know how you do it, and they want to come and visit, because it's something that still people can't figure out if they're not in it. And so I think I look for people who are aware or involved. The other thing I'll say is there's a lot of things that are going on in this world where people are applying for jobs in the media, but don't watch the actual media in the same way the hiring manager might. So keep that in mind. I could sit across from a reporter and ask them, have you ever seen us? Well, I've seen clips of you on social media. Now, that's just part of us. And so I think that everything is fragmented. And so your ability to apply for a job, go all in if you can. I know a lot of people say I have, on the TV side, that they go to their parents' house because they have cable. I can't afford cable, so I watch you at my parents' house when I get a chance. But again, our business is changing so quickly. People are using us on YouTube TV and all the things that are going on. But the bottom line is be prepared wherever you're going, be prepared to discuss the product. One more thing I'll say, if you're applying for a job, these are a couple of things I like. A lot of times you want to talk about yourself. Ask the question, am I replacing someone? Or is this a new job? Simple question, which is very, it's a good, curious thing. And the second thing is, the person that I'm replacing, what didn't they do that you would like me to do? Very important, because that person may have left in a good way. Maybe they missed that person and now it's open. But think about asking the right questions when you're interviewing, not just talking about yourself. I think that that's important.
You guys, they are giving you really good advice, and please make sure you pay attention to the chat, because there's a lot of good information that's being shared in the chat. And so I definitely want to leave some time for questions. So if you have a question, please drop it in the chat so I can ask our panelists. So over the last few years, the media has kind of gotten a bad rap, if you will, fake news and other things. But what I want to know is, what do you guys love most about your job? And Andrea, I'm going to start with you.
The thing I love most about my job is being able, one, to connect with individuals that I may not be able to if I didn't have, if I wasn't in this profession. I think, sometimes it's so easy to just go interview someone, but the fact that when you think about it, the fact that random strangers will, you could just introduce yourself and you say, I'm a reporter for the Union Tribune or Voice of San Diego or CBS, and this individual will open up and tell you their story is just kind of crazy to me. Like no normal person would do that to a random stranger. I walked up to them. But the fact that you have a notebook and that this is part of your job really allows you this view of society and our neighbors that we normally wouldn't have. So just being able to hear those stories of individuals that I normally, wouldn't have heard if I was just a regular person, I guess. And then being able to share that and tie that into really important conversations, being able to, show other people who may not have that opportunity to talk to individuals on the street and show them how, the pandemic really affected small business owners in a certain neighborhood, or, how this family losing their loved one, from COVID really impacted them, and being able to share those stories. I think that's my favorite part.
Okay. Jeff, I'm going to ask you, and then we'll take one more answer. And then I see a couple of questions that I want to ask in the chat.
Yeah, I thought that was really well said by Andrea. I mean, as a journalist, this might be a bit of an overstatement, but like virtually every door is open to you. You can call up anybody and ask them questions and learn and find things out. And the result of that is, often work of really high consequence. Like you can make a difference in people's lives, in the life of the community, all by, this pursuit of this basic question: is that really true? What's really going on here? Is that really true? How do you see it? And there's a concept that I agree with, that sort of the definition of understanding is being able to see something from different perspectives. That's what understanding something really means. And that's what we do as journalists. So it's a great job. It's got this profound effect on you personally. It's a calling and a journey through your whole career of journalism and your life of learning and enrichment. And then, as you go through that career, the ability really accumulates as you go.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions.
Oh yeah, okay, go ahead.
I want to make sure I get to. So Mackenzie would like to know, would you recommend emailing an internship coordinator or hiring manager after applying to an internship in order to make yourself stand out more? That's open to anybody who wants to answer.
I would say yes. And if you can get a phone number and try to get them on the phone just to make sure that they've seen your, application and received it. Again, just like with any open position, we get a lot of applicants for the internship. So if you want to stand up, make sure they know who you are.
Okay. Patrick has a quick question for Rich. When you say you should be prepared to discuss the nature of the station during an interview, do you mean you'd like to see applicants be honest about how they think the network should change? Or do you mean more you want the applicant to understand what the station is like currently?
I think it could be both. I think, certainly know where you're headed. I think that's important. So wherever you're going to interview, and you've heard some experts with resumes, customize your resume for specific jobs. We'll customize your mind for specific jobs. So be prepared to talk about those things. I think talking about the business is a good thing too, because part of what you try to do during an interview process is to get to know that person. And so if you are aware of what's going on in the field that you're interviewing for, I think it's a plus. And so I think there are a lot of old souls out there who go interview for jobs. So then there are people who are not aware of their surroundings sometimes and not aware of what's going on in the field that they're applying for. So I think it is a benefit to know what's going on in the field and how things have changed, for sure.
Diego wants to know, or he would like advice to network properly if you're young and inexperienced, and also in general applying when you're new to this career path. So basically what he's asking is, if I don't have a lot of experience, but I'm really passionate about this, how do I network and how do I get involved and make myself stand out?
I can go. I would say, Diego, you should definitely, look up some of the local journalism groups here in San Diego, whether those be the professional groups or even if there is a group at the school you're attending. And that way, kind of start off small until you feel a little more comfortable, then go to the professional groups. A lot of our groups have mixers or scholarship events, different opportunities, Zoom events that make it, a little less intimidating. But yeah, you might want to start with looking at your own school and seeing what groups you can, join and kind of start building up from there. And if there aren't any groups at your school, you could always start one that really, focuses on the things that you're interested in.
All right, that's really good advice, Andrea. Anybody else?
Hey, Jerry.
Yeah.
I see LaMonica Peters is on here. I would love for her to tell her story of how she kind of found her way and got her foot in the door in this business, because she kind of took an unusual path.
Okay, LaMonica, spotlight's on you. You're on mute. Okay.
I'm off mute. Thank you, Dana. I'm glad I put my makeup on. I was just intending to listen. Okay, so you want me to talk about how I got started or my
Well, you know,
journey?
there's students on this, you know, and just to hear from somebody who made it into the business, it's hard to get a job and at your level. And how did you do it?
Just a lot of determination, honestly. I started when I was 38. So I had a degree in communications. I was a teacher, and this was my dream job. And I decided that I was not going to waste any more time and that I better do it now. I still look really young, so it was kind of easy. It wasn't like, you know, I had that issue. So I was lucky in that sense. But I got someone to, first of all, I had no experience in a newsroom, just like you. So I had to, I interned at a radio station so that I would have something to put on a resume. It was broadcast. And I actually thought I would start in broadcast, but it didn't happen that way. Actually 2 radio stations. So I had something to start with there. And then I actually had someone help me put a reel together who had been in the business for 20 years. He was a reporter in LA, and this was a service that he offered. So I really kind of started up from the gutter. I had, you know, no real experience, actually had never even been in a newsroom, but I was going to be a news reporter. That's just what was going to happen. After that, it took me 4 months. I was still living in California. I got a job in Mississippi, had never been there before, didn't have family there. And so it was like starting, you know, college all over again, to be honest. I made very little money, sacrificed a lot financially. But when you want to do something, then you will make that sacrifice. I stayed late, you know, and worked for hours after my shift just to train myself. I had to. I was playing catch up. You know, I'm competing for jobs with people who had gone to school for this. Now I have a communications degree, but that's not journalism. There are rules and you know, technicalities, just things that you need to know as a journalist that I had to learn. And it wasn't easy at all. I had to learn how to edit. I had to learn how to write, you know, all of the things that you hear people talk about. I had to teach myself how to do it. And so I just celebrated 10 years of being in the business this month. And I'm happy. I have no regrets. It was not easy. I miss my family. I was by myself. I was making very little money. But when you enjoy what you do and you set your mind to do something, then you will sacrifice for it and stay the course until you get to the point where I am today, where I'm pretty happy, you know, with everything else. So it can be done. And it was a lot harder to do it 10 years ago. The business was definitely a lot more competitive. So you guys are actually at an advantage right now. There are so many jobs available. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. So if you really want to do this, I would just recommend that you buckle down and learn. That's the most important thing. Work hard. I just think that earning the respect of your colleagues because you know what you're doing, because you are dedicated to what you're doing, is just like the most important thing. And you have to put in the work to get there. That's the only way you're going to maintain longevity in anything. And so this is a good time to, you know, get in and start, you know, at the bottom and move your way up.
Thank you, LaMonica. That was very inspiring, and congratulations on 10 years.
Thank you.
Everybody doesn't make it, trust me on that.
I know.
So we have roughly 2 minutes left. So I would like to go around really quickly to our panelists and just get any final words. So Rich, I'll go with you first.
I think the main thing is we talked about hard work. And when it comes to being in this field, know that you may have to work on Thanksgiving. You may have to work on Christmas. While your friends are going out, you have to do something. But it is, if you think about it, if you are passionate about something, you have to go all in. And And, you know, our parents told us early age is to shake someone's hand and look them in the eye. And some of you may have said, oh, wow, why do I have to do that? But in essence, that will pay off for you if you had done that in the world that we're in today, and making sure that you are just looking people in the eye and wanting to work and be passionate about something. So that's my biggest thing, is that passion drives things to get you more money. And don't chase the dollar, please, because if I gave you 10,000 more and you went home with a stomach ache, you'd pray to get that other job back for the less of the 10 grand. So just make sure that you don't chase money right away. All right, that's all I got for you.
All right. The producer and me is saying we have 1 minute. So does anyone else want to chime in this last minute? Anybody?
I'll say, I know we all kind of joke around how we made little money as journalists and don't get into the business for the money. But I would encourage you guys to value your work and to learn how to negotiate for yourself when it comes to your salary, when it comes to asking for raises. I think as like journalists of color, that's a really difficult conversation to have with your managers. So make sure that you are putting value on the work that you do and what you bring to the table.
All right. And with that, we are concluding our first panel. So Jeff, Andrea, Dana, Mark, Rich, on behalf of the San Diego Association of Black Journalists and the participants of Pro for a Day, we thank you very much for giving up your time this morning. The students have learned a lot, and also to the participants, there's been a lot of good information shared in the chat. So please, please, please pay attention to that. And thank you very much. And Keith, I'm turning it back over to you.